One of my earliest memories is being violently grabbed by my father when I was in my room and being chased outside of that room when I barely broke free as the little guy that I was, all the way out the front door of our house at the time, and that was after another struggle. I made it out the front door and tried to get beyond the steps that led down towards our yard because our house was elevated. And my dad grabs me by the shirt that I was wearing and also by the hair at another point and takes his fist closed as well as his hand opened and continually hit me. My mother grabbed him and kept saying his name and saying to stop and saying, "No, you can't do this," and so on. Until eventually I was put down, onto the porch there. And I remember looking around confused. I remember looking around confused as my mom told him that he couldn't do that. I don't remember the exact words. And he just looked at her indignantly, put his hands up in the air, and like did a, I don't care type of motion, and went back inside. I still don't remember what he said. I remember, though, being with my cat after that. I remember the time that I spent with more of my cats as the years went on and I continued to get more of them. I remember similar events occurring again and again and again. And my companions grew, but they did not come from Homo sapiens. They came from the animals that I had, or the animals that I would meet in the wild. Because I lived on a lot of rural land, I would find deer in my yard. Our neighbors had horses that I would also see and touch. They had cows as well. Cows that I loved, horses that I loved. And the deer that lived free, wild, locally, I loved them too. My dogs I loved. My cats I loved. Oftentimes, in the midst of all of this abuse I would experience in that home, I would feel as though these animals were my only refuge from the violence, that they were the one form of solace that I could take with all of this madness going on, that they were the only people, and yes, I do say people, that understood me, that I could connect with, that made me feel less alone, rather than the more loneliness I would accrue from being around my family. People who continually berated me, abused me, insulted me, and made me feel as though I was less than dirt, that I ought to be shoved into the dirt and violently smashed down. Because at times that was what was done to me. But then, there were these animals that loved me, even when I mistakenly in my youth didn't give them the proper love back. That they would come running to me, loving me all the same. There's a certain purity that comes with that. There's a certain joy that comes from that, knowing that these small, innocent creatures desire only love and compassion in exchange for all of the love and compassion that they give you. And even when you don't give them that in the beginning or in return, they continue to do so, pathetically almost. It's a sort of vulnerability that you have to take responsibility for. It's a sort of vulnerability that you almost never get from a human being, because we're taught not to trust one another even after trust has been provenly forged. They still love you, even after you cross so many boundaries. And that kind of love is so authentic and pure that one is compelled to not take advantage of it, because you have all the power there. And when you have all that power, it feels the most bad to abuse it. There's no situation that feels worse than to have power and to abuse it. And that's what you have with animals. But all they want to do is love you. All they want to do is exist. And that's all they do. If left untampered with, if taken care of, that's all they do. And there's something so viscerally beautiful about that. Something that kept me from feeling alone throughout my childhood. I think it was one of the few things I had that kept me sane. Without those animals, I don't think I would have had any friends. I don't think I would have had any allies. I don't think I would have had any companions. And that's why I'm sympathetic to veganism, even though I still don't agree with it. I think these feelings, if any, are what vegans are right about.